very good evening to you. You're live here on GHOne TV. It's time for News Tonight with me, Natalie, for a look at our top stories. Coming up this evening, minority slams IGP over comments of rewarding individuals involved in Bawku violence who laid out their weapons with police recruitment.
The IGP's visit is rather going to create more problems than good. To say that lay down your tools, and that if you lay down your tools, we will consider you for recruitment.
Tonight we're live in Bawku as the GHOne is expected to resume peace mediation efforts next week to tackle the violence. Also coming up, President John Dramani Mahama fires back at MP for Sin South, Reverend Ntim Fojo, following drug trafficking claims. The health minister expresses shock over prolonged equipment failures at Ridge Hospital after an unannounced visit to the facility.
Run these equipment in most cases for a fee, and yet when the equipment are obsolete, they still want government to come back and maintain them or replace them.
Also in the bulletin this evening, Bank of Ghana and its former governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, sued over significant exchange rate losses recorded by the cedi since 2017. The details of these stories and much more news here on News Tonight Tuesday. You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV, all across the world on Facebook and X at GHOne TV. Top on the news this evening. The Asantehene Otumfuo Seitu II is expected to resume his peace mediation efforts next week to help find a lasting solution to the protracted Bawku conflict. This move forms part of intensified efforts by government to restore calm in the conflict-prone area, following a recent violent clash between police and irate youth, which left one person dead and several officers with gunshot wounds. President Mahama disclosed that the Otumfuo-led mediation committee will reconvene next week. Speaking at a graduation ceremony at the Ghana Military Academy in Accra, the president said the Asantehene had assured him of his commitments to bring stakeholders back to the table and continue the peace dialogue upon his return from a brief visit abroad.
Let us support our security services and the Ghana Armed Forces with information that is useful and intelligence that is helpful, that will advance their work rather than retrogress it. Let me reiterate that we will take all allegations of crime seriously and trigger our security service investigative machinery to go after criminals no matter who they are. But let me state emphatically also that we do not have the resources and time to engage in any game of smoke and mirrors. The Ghana Armed Forces is engaged in several theaters to maintain peace and security in our nation. One major flashpoint continues to be the Bawku area. Only 2 days ago, an incident in a marketplace triggered an unfortunate loss of lives and criminal vandalism of property. I wish to emphasize that nobody gains from this situation of conflict and insecurity. We have triggered the Otumfuo mediation process, which saw all stakeholders participate in discussions in Kumasi on a roadmap towards peace. I'm assured by the Asantehene that the process will resume next week when he returns from his brief visit abroad.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Christian Tete Yohonu, has appealed to the youth of Bawku to embrace peace, assuring them of priority in police recruitment as part of efforts to restore calm in the conflict-stricken area. Speaking during a visit to Bawku on Friday, April 11, IGP Yohonu highlighted the dedication and resilience of the Bawku people, emphasizing that a special recruitment team would be deployed to the region to provide opportunities specifically for its youth.
The people of Sierra Leone and the people of Cambodia, the people of Lebanon, that they have relative peace, We want to make sure that Bawku will come back in its past glory, so that at least we can all come back here. Every security officer will touch Bawku before he going on retirement. So please forgive us where we have gone wrong. Forgive us where we have gone wrong. Those mistakes will be corrected. Let us know where we have gone wrong and we'll correct it. We are appealing to the youth that what we see about the youth from Bawku in the Ghana police, in the military, and then in other security services, they always discharge their duties with professionalism, duty consciousness. Those who have retired, who have worked in any of these security services, have all distinguished themselves. And so we are appealing to you to lay down your arms, have confidence in us, so that together we'll work and then we'll bring peace to this area. We assure you that when it comes to recruitment, we'll give the people of Bawku priority. We'll give the youth of Bawku priority.
Meanwhile, Richard Akumbas Ayabila, who spoke on behalf of Bawku Naba Asigri Abu Grago Azoka II, revealed that over 40 people have been killed in the conflict since last year.
Over 40 people have died in Bawku. And those people they mentioned are what we call reported deaths. The newsmen will tell you they are reported deaths. It means that there are some deaths that are not reported. And the reason is because there's an illegal person who calls himself a chief in town. The president of the republic himself said that the person is an imposter, is an illegality. What do they do with illegal people? The question we ask is that if the entire police force or the military cannot single out that person and take the person out, then what else can be done? The question we're asking for over 40 years, Zurana has been a chief. Only for somebody 2 years ago to get up and go somewhere to be in-skinned as a chief. And the person come and is holding himself a chief. And he can't even get a market. And you are protecting his people to go to somebody's market and buy food for them. If he is a chief, it means that he should have a market for himself and be able to rule.
Meanwhile, the minority has condemned the IGP over his reported comments of rewarding individuals involved in the Bawku violence who lay down their weapons with recruitment. In an address earlier today, the NPP MPs accused the governing NDC of playing politics with the Bawku conflict while in opposition.
The minority in parliament is deeply concerned about the worsening security situation in Bawku, where persistent violence continues to endanger lives and displace residents. Over the past few months, the intensity and frequency of attacks, including sporadic shootings, arson, and home invasions, have escalated, with reports suggesting a high death toll, with many people said to be missing than those reported dead. The government must demonstrate greater urgency and decisiveness. The deteriorating situation in Bawku is a national concern, and the government must take immediate action to prevent further escalation. The people of Bawku deserve to live in peace and security, and we urge, as a minority caucus, urge the government to prioritize a sustainable resolution to the crisis before it spirals further out of control.
The IGP's visit is rather going to create more problems than good. To say that lay down your tools, and that if you lay down your tools, we will consider you for recruitment. It's something that one cannot understand. Why should people, yes, it is important. In order to de-escalate the situation in the Bawku enclave, it is important that we get all parties involved to lay down their tools. But for me, it will be absurd to recruit people into the security services based on the fact that they've laid down their tools. What it means, that if you do not even meet the criteria to be recruited into the security service, you will be recruited into the security service because you have laid down your tool. That obviously is not the way to go.
Well, let's stay on developments in Bawku and engage now with Atungo Idrisu Kasim. He's a local reporter in that area, joining us with the latest. Good evening to you, Atungo. Well, first of all, paint a picture of what the situation is like in Bawku currently. Do we have calm restored there?
Thank you very much. All right, so good evening.
Well, Atungo Idrisu Kasim there is a local reporter giving us the details, and we will re-engage him because it appears we're having a bit of trouble with his sound, but clearly giving us painting a picture there of what the situation is like currently in Bawku following these renewed clashes. As you have heard earlier, this was sparked, a violent confrontation which was sparked on April 10, and as you see on your screen, we've had over 40 people killed since last year following the developments in Bawku. The IGP was also there to give some assurance of security. Now let's move over from Idrisu and engage now with Emmanuel Cotton, the security analyst, sharing his thoughts on this issue. Good evening to you, Mr. Cotton. Thank you so much for joining us here on News Tonight this evening. Well, first of all, what's your just general assessment really of this insecurity within Bawku, and specifically the comments made by the IGP during his visit?
Well, thank you for having me. I think the presence of the IGP is a good one because he's the head of the police as an institution, and there were allegations of mistrust between the citizens and the security personnel. But I believe that it has moved beyond trust. It is about entitlement. And this shows how the conflict has taken a political dimension. You know, when FPP is in government, the man-process feel a sense of authority and entitlement. And if you look at the way we voted in the last elections, given the promises the various political parties made, you see the Kusasi areas voted predominantly for the NDC, and the man-process voted predominantly for the NPP. So it wasn't surprising when the Kusasi youth brought out a press statement even threatening the president. They even threatened their member of parliament not to come to Bawku. And the instances where even the member of parliament house was touched made the visit of the IGP to Bawku untenable. Indeed, if you look at the way he spoke, it was quite diplomatic, and I feel he has taken policy into another level. Very minded about the cultural and then emotional sensibilities of both tribes.
Right.
So to me, it was a good move he did.
Right.
And they shouldn't take his statement out of context.
Mr. Cotton, I would want you to, I'm very eager to hear what your thoughts on his statements are and the implications of his statement. But I'd like to ask that you kindly hold your thoughts briefly, but do still stay with us. I'll engage you shortly. Now, having rejoined us is a local reporter, Atungo Idrisu Kasim, joining us now. Idrisu, I was asking you earlier if we have absolute calm in the area as we speak.
Yes, it's totally calm in the area after the IGP and his team left the area. Before they left, there was some misunderstanding from the youth. The youth were not happy with some of the statements made by the IGP and his people. That's the regional police commander. So when they were about to leave, the youth hooted at the regional police commander, calling the IGP to remove him from the region, if only they want peace to return to Bawku. So as they left, there is totally calm in the area. Where I am now, I'm currently in the Garu, where we had an indication that there was misunderstanding. But when we got here, it wasn't the same as they reported. So I'm currently on the streets of Garu currently. That is why you can see the cars, motors moving behind. So someone was surprised, but there's a case. How do you have these things behind? So this is where I am now.
That's where you are now. Idrisu, thank you so much for the update. You say that generally calm has been restored in the community where you're currently situated. Thank you for that update. There now, as you heard Idrisu briefly touch on earlier, we had the youth who displayed some anger and clashed with the IGP and the regional police commander. I'm going to bring you that insert now, and then we re-engage our security analyst. Those are some scenes from Bawku as angry youth clash with the IGP. Thank you so much for staying on the line, Mr. Coaten. I return to you now. You saw this brief insert, which we just played, and you were saying earlier that, yes, it's commendable that the IGP went there and gave his assurance of peace, described this as diplomatic in terms of his language. But one comment that has rather been described as rather political is his promise for special recruitment to the youth of Bawku in the event that they lay down their tools or ensure that there's peace in the community. What do you make of this statement? Is it necessary, really, for the IGP to have made this statement?
I think we are taking the IGP statement out of context.
Why?
Don't let's trivialize it. You know, Bawku has been under siege for a long period now. And the youth of Bawku has not gotten opportunity to some of the national cakes other youth across the country are enjoying. If he had said he was going to give the Kusasi youth an opportunity over the Mamprishis, that would have been problematic. But he said more the youth of Bawku. And this is not the first time initiative of this nature had happened. You know, in the past, we used to have regional recruitment centers where Ghanaians over the age of 18 who were willing to serve their nation can go for such recruitment process. And his statement was conditional. If you lay down your tools, you could be. It was not emphatic that you would be. So don't let us trivialize the issue. The indigents of Bawku have suffered too much, and it's not everything we play politics with. For Christ's sake, the minority is just coming out of government 3 months ago. So in their 8 years period, what did they do? So I'll plead with the minority to be very mindful about not escalating or pouring more petrol into an already inflamed situation. And let's also look at how we can de-escalate the situation. Then, like the president said in his speech at the graduation of these military officers, His Eminence Otunfo's committee can continue with their mediation process when he arrives. So I'll plead with the minority that their press release have become one too many, and if care is not taken, there could be sensitive issues that will come with a presser and no one will be interested. So let's commend the IGP for being bold to apologize to the people of Bawku and seek for their forgiveness. That was bold. Security heads don't have that kind of language. That's why I say he's bringing diplomacy to bear on the situation. And his true intention is to de-escalate the process so that the peace-building mechanisms can kick in.
So, Mr. Coaten, just very briefly, with that being said, you don't think that his comments, in spite of the fact that you say it's being taken out of the perspective by the minority, you can't create any expectations by the youth of Bawku for these jobs?
Well, if you say expectations, yes. Because the youth of Bawku, and my investigation even reveals that he was responding to a question. When someone asked that the youth of Bawku has been denied opportunities in time past to get recruitment not only to the Ghana Police Service, to the other security services. And his response was that if you lay down your tools, we could have a special dispensation for you so that we can bring these processes to the doorstep to give priority. Giving priority doesn't mean that if you don't qualify, they will take you like my honorable MP was insinuating. And I think that comments of this nature don't help in the peace building process. In the meantime, I think that the IGP presence there will restore law and order. I also believe that he must speak to his men, the personnel who are on peace keeping mission there, and give them clear rules of engagement, avoiding perceived biases towards any of the ethnic groups. They should also create humanitarian corridors to ensure that displaced persons have access to aid and medical services. And I will also urge that they implement some temporary buffer zones between the feuding factions to de-escalate the tension. And the call by the spokesperson of the Buri of the Bawku Naba must be heeded. I think there have been a lot of complaints about the regional commander, who is an indigent from the region. That by itself is counterproductive. I know ACP Adofim is from Navrongo. So, rightly so, he could be accused, rightly or falsely, of having an interest in the conflict. So, the IGP should withdraw the regional commander and send a very impartial person there that can endanger the trust between the feuding factions. Then we kickstart the processes of the Otumfo Mediation Commission.
Emmanuel Coton, thank you, as always, for your time this evening. Security analyst joining us on that issue and developments within Bawku. More on it subsequently. Now, the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustafa Bande, has justified the need to deport rather than prosecute foreign nationals involved in Galamsey. This comes to reaffirm earlier submission by the Interior Minister, Muntaka Mubarak, during a working visit to the Ashanti region earlier this week. In an interview on Star Chat, the Deputy Director of Operations at the Presidency, Mustafa Bande, asserted that prosecuting foreign nationals involved in Galamsey will only result in extra expenditure for the state.
Once you arrest somebody, it's an expenditure on the state. If you jail the person, it's an expenditure on the state. If you've come from your country with the sole purpose of being irresponsible in our country, when you are caught, it doesn't matter your investment, you should be taken out. If you are a Ghanaian, you should be taken straight to a court and given an ultimatum to go and repair the damage you have caused. If you don't do it, you are jailed.
Well, GHOne News hits the streets of Accra to find out what the public makes of this directive.
I think the government should investigate about the issue and look into it, who give those people the permit for them to do such a thing before they will be deported. And those who are also behind all those activities, they should be held responsible for punishment. And those who are in the criminal, they are doing the work in the criminal way, they should also be held accountable before. And I wish they will also be charged. They should put charge on them and before they will deport them to where they are coming from.
To deal with them before they deported them. Because we have a law in this country, so definitely they have to.
The person is found guilty and is doing illegal without proper documentation and even acquiring proper documentation from the government, the person has to be prosecuted. The laws of this country have to deal with the person. Yes, they need to be prosecuted.
Yes, and it's serious.
Now, the Upper West Regional Police Command has arrested 7 individuals for engaging in illegal mining activities on the Black Volta River at Changtaga, a community near Dorimon in the Wa West district. The operation, which took place on Thursday, April 10, 2025, led to the apprehension of the 7. During a raid, the police retrieved 10 Changfang machines, 2 unregistered tricycles, as well as a motorbike with registration number M24NR6010 and another with M23 UW4413. Additionally, 2 unregistered Haozhu and Apsonic motorbikes and 6 student mattresses were found at the site. The suspects are currently in police custody, assisting with investigations, and are expected to be arraigned before court soon. In a statement, the police reaffirmed commitments to clamping down on illegal mining, which continues to pose a threat to the region's environment and water bodies. Well, let's stay away from these issues now and bring you on it subsequently. President John Dramani Mahama is expected to release names of nominees for the position of the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Chief Executives for Eastern and other regions. This is brewing tension within the NDC in the Eastern region. In Ekwapim South, for instance, some branch NDC executives and supporters are warning of dire consequences should Solomon Into Wiafe, CEO of Golden Riverside Limited, be nominated as Municipal Chief Executive. The group accuses the Member of Parliament, Laurentia Ajwa GHOne, for fighting against their favorite, Paul Osei Ofei, who contested her in the NDC primaries due to political insecurity. Our correspondent Obed Kojo Ansah was in the municipality and reports.
Right here in Ekwapim South Municipality, Eastern Region, some executives and grassroots members of the NDC are up in arms over alleged attempts to impose Solomon Into Wiafe, an export and agribusinessman, as the next municipal chief executive. They claim Mr. Wiafe was disqualified during the Eastern Regional vetting process. According to them, 3 other candidates, including Paul Ofei, a former constituency vice chairman and parliamentary aspirant, were shortlisted and forwarded to the national level for consideration.
They said people should pick forms to contest for the MC position. 20 of our party faithfuls do pick the forms. They went for regional vetting. After the regional vetting, 3 people were shortlisted for the final vetting at Accra. Last week we went there, and another person was added to it. That person was initially part of the 20 who were disqualified from the other regional vetting. But we went there and we realized he was there.
The party faithfuls are pointing fingers at the MP for the area, Laurentia Ajwa GHOne, accusing her of lobbying behind the scene to push Mr. Solomon Wiafe's nomination.
It is well known, say everybody's calling for the Paul Osei Ofei to be our MC. But then the issue is people think he would be contesting the current MP. So people think he would be contesting her when the need arises or when the chance comes. But then I don't think we should be thinking that way.
Yesterday, young chairman, national chairman, young Persiabe Mayor Homeless, young Persiabe Kenya, because young Henry work room and you need man, you boom.
The aggrieved supporters say they will resist any attempt to impose Mr. Wiafe and caution that any such move could lead to our party or put us votes in the future polls.
Paul, the end in the fifty Mufrasa, it was on Bruniba, or had be a bit to work on anyway. You'll be able to work on Paul. So by able to work on anyway, acquiring has a match.
Only Payan and Atanaha, why a ground had died in say. Obi to say Paul, yen na wa ha yenim Paul. Na obi a yenim no, a onye hwe ma yen wa ha, ekwapem ha yen ankasa yen hye da nim se osimasini, ana osimasini di. Wode no ma yen ha yen ne rentumi nge hu saa. Inti no ene de are mu ayen.
For GHOne TV and Star FM, Kojo Ansah, Ekwapem South.
You're watching News Tonight here on GHOne TV. Let's turn to some other top stories this evening. Health Minister Kwabena Mintah Akando has slammed management of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital over dysfunctional MRI and CT scan machines, which is affecting healthcare delivery in the radiography units of the hospital. Expressing his frustration during an unannounced visit to the facility, the sector minister bemoaned the poor maintenance culture of the facility, including washrooms, and hinted of a policy direction for health facilities to use portions of its internally generated funds to fix broken down equipment. Obed King-Gaglo has more.
In a surprise visit to the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, also known as Ridge Hospital, Health Minister Kwabena Mintah Akando expressed shock over the facility's prolonged equipment failures. His first stop was the laboratory, where to his disbelief, there was no staff present, even though it was almost 11 a.m. At the radiology unit, the minister was outraged to learn that the hospital's MRI and CT scan machines have been out of service for 2 years.
The CT scan has been down for some time now. I'm told about 2 years. The MRI has also been down for some time now. I'm told about 2 years. It's not been working. And I made few observations about the culture of maintenance that I'm not happy about.
The emergency department revealed more concerns. The minister scolded management over poor maintenance, particularly pointing to deteriorating washroom conditions. Only 1 out of 3 was operational. The others were locked, with management claiming they were choked.
In 2 minutes to the washroom. I can imagine a patient in the facility who wants to use the washroom.
Minister, to show you. No, the washrooms are actually, I'm a clinician, I work in the space.
Visibly angered by the revelations, the minister held a closed-door meeting with the hospital's management for nearly an hour. Addressing journalists afterwards, Mr. Akando announced a forthcoming policy that will compel public hospitals to dedicate parts of their internally generated funds to urgent repairs to prevent disruption in patient care.
But I'm yet to understand why government will equip a facility, hospital equipment or medical equipment. Hospitals will run these equipment in most cases for a fee. And yet when the equipment are obsolete, they still want government to come back and maintain them or replace them. I think that must also change. This is not about rich alone. It's not about rich alone. It cuts across every part of this country.
The minister also warned that similar unannounced visits will be conducted at other health facilities nationwide. He assured the public that the broken equipment at Ridge Hospital will be fixed as a matter of urgency to restore services at the radiology department.
I can come there at any given time. So give off your best. You don't need to know somebody before you attend to the person well. If you're a health worker, you are a health worker. Of course, let me salute them for the many sacrifices they have done. But of course, there are few ones amongst them, the bad nuts, that please, this time round, you have to change.
Meanwhile, Mr. Akando pledged government's continued commitment to reviewing and enforcing contracts to ensure the smooth operation of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital.
In other news, President John Dramani Mahama has fired back at what he describes as a deliberate attempt to distract the public following drug trafficking claims made by the MP for Asin South, Reverend Ntim Fodwo. This comes amid criticism from the minority, who argue that Reverend Fodwo is being treated as a victim rather than being celebrated as a whistleblower in the ongoing suspicious flight saga. Speaking at the Ghana Military Academy on Friday, April 11, during the graduation ceremony of officer cadets, President Mahama emphasized that all allegations of crime will be taken seriously. He added that the country does not have the luxury of time for games of smoke and mirrors.
Let us support our security services and the Ghana Armed Forces with information that is useful and intelligence that is helpful, that will advance their work rather than retrogress it. Let me reiterate that we will take all allegations of crime seriously and trigger our security service investigative machinery to go after criminals no matter who they are. But let me state emphatically also that we do not have the resources and time to engage in any game of smoke and mirrors.
Well, it's been a tense week in Guinean politics since South MP Reverend GHOne Ntim stirred the pot with some bold allegations and nearly got picked up by national security for them. It's a battle of words, proof and power between Parliament and the executive. GH1's Elikplim Awuku has more in this report.
We will not be intimidated.
You might have had a rough week, but perhaps not as rough as Addison South MP and ranking member of Parliament's Interior and Defence Committee, Reverend GHOne Ntim, who was nearly hauled off by National Intelligence Bureau operatives over certain explosive allegations he made.
Even more intriguing is the cargo suspiciously transported by these aircrafts to and from Gran Canaria, an island known for its notoriety in drug trafficking, money laundering, among others. We call on national security to make full disclosure of the content of the cargo carried by these two aircraft into the country, as well as the cargo carried out of the country by the same aircraft to Gran Canaria.
To which government responded.
The aircraft was once again inspected by officials of aviation security, officials of national security, officials of the National Intelligence Bureau, and NACOC, who made sure that it did not contain any unlawful substances, as alleged by Reverend Ntim.
But the ranking member was unimpressed, taking to social media to respond. However, the government wasn't ready to let things slide. What followed was a dramatic standoff between members of the opposition New Patriotic Party and National Intelligence operatives right at the NP's residence.
I'm elected to address it, or he's elected to address it, and you send about 20 gun-wielding, AK-47 wielding NIB officers to his house for what?
Has he committed any crime?
No.
By this time, we're expecting even the government to commend him.
You don't take your time to investigate, but rather go after the person. What does it make you?
So, does the popular legal adage, he who alleges must prove, apply here? Not according to NPP Director of Communications, Richard Ahiagba.
The question you are asking me is an unfair question. Are you expecting that Ntim to fetch a sample of the cocaine and show anybody? The evidence you are looking for is the inconsistency and the lack of purpose of that flight here in our country.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is now yours.
In other news, Justice Kweku Tewia Aka Boafo, a justice of the Court of Appeal, has emphasized the need for thorough investigations, cautioning investigators against effecting arrests without independent evidence. He said arresting an individual solely based on another person's statements without a thorough independent investigation poses significant risks. On March 27 this year, the Court of Appeal panel of 3, presided over by Justice Bartels Kodwo, acquitted and discharged one Isaka Abubakar, who had been sentenced together with others into prison for 40 years in 2011 for robbery. This was after the panel held that the appellant, Abubakar, was not properly identified as a perpetrator and there was no independent evidence connecting him to the crime. The court acquitted and discharged him of the charges of robbery and conspiracy to commit robbery. Justice Aka Boafo, a justice of the Court of Appeal, in his concurring opinion to the judgment, said the time has come to be blunt with investigators. He highlighted the potential consequences of such practices, including wrongful arrest due to personal motives such as revenge, bias, or misidentification. Justice Aka Boafo noted that this approach can lead to arbitrary policing, fostering abuse of power and erosion of public trust in law enforcement. Watching news tonight. Let's turn to the education sector now, as the sector minister Haruna Idrisu has clarified that members of academic institutions are exempted from the government's recent suspension of post-retirement contracts in the public sector. Executive Secretary to the President, Dr. Callistus Mahama, in a letter addressed the Public Service Commission, said post-retirement appointments have been cancelled effective immediately. However, Haruna Idrisu at a press briefing said the directive does not apply to academic institutions and urged members of various facilities to continue their work across campuses.
The president has taken a major decision on post-retirement contract of appointments to public service, and for retired public servants who has attained the age of 60, with a new strong government position not to grant post-retirement contracts. The essence of this briefing is to assure the men and women in academia that they are not affected by this decision, and therefore faculty and faculty members be assured that they are exempt from this directive. And for their purposes, they will go through their councils, the public service and appropriate institution where necessary for those approvals to be granted. So the essence of this press briefing is just to assure academia, lecturers and students that the academic community and lecturers in the universities and other higher institutions of learning in the tertiary institutions are exempt from this directive.
The Forum for African Women Educationalists, Ghana, has reiterated the urgent need to prioritize and expand access to quality education for girls across the country. Speaking at a media briefing in Accra, the organization emphasized that empowering young girls through education remains critical to national development. There's more in this report.
Girl-child education in Ghana has seen significant advancements, particularly in enrollment rates, but challenges remain in retention, quality, and gender parity at higher educational levels. Addressing the media in Accra on Friday, National Coordinator of FAWE Ghana, Richard Amweni, highlighted FAWE Ghana's readiness to open collaboration with both governmental and non-governmental organizations to achieve its mission of ensuring that every Ghanaian girl, regardless of background, has the opportunity to learn and thrive in a safe and supportive environment.
At the end of the next 5 years, we want to see that a lot of young girls would have access to quality education and training opportunity at all levels of higher education in Ghana. Last week, we were with the gender minister. It would be good for the two agencies, ourselves and them, to carry a research to establish the fact that indeed this is the data that exists. It is an area that we would love to exploit, not only with the gender ministry, but with any other agency that will be willing to collaborate with us to do research, to get evidence to back most of the information that we have and share around.
Meanwhile, Program Manager at FAWE Ghana, Anna Nabere, highlighted the organization's contributions to the education of needy students across the country.
Apart from the TVET, we are also looking at brilliant young people from marginalized communities due to their circumstances beyond their control, due to their location, due to their vulnerability. They are brilliant, they are intelligent, but they are not able to pass their exam as a requirement. So we are looking at science-related courses, students that are interested in pursuing sciences, but because of the lack of infrastructure at the end of the senior high, they are not able to meet their requirements. We are going to fish out for those students in Ghana and then design what we call the bridging program, which is going to be a 1-year program to give them the foundational support that they need to qualify them.
Established in 1993, FARE Ghana has been at the forefront of advocating for gender equity in education and continues to implement programs aimed at improving learning outcomes for girls through mentorships, scholarships, and advocacy in 34 African countries.
You're watching News Tonight. We've got business news next. Top on the news and business this evening, the Bank of Ghana and its former governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, have been sued over significant exchange rate losses recorded by the Ghanaian cedi since 2017. Barbier Violet Allen, an investor in government treasuries, claimed that the cedi's depreciation from 4.26 to the dollar in 2017 to 15.49 in 2025 has severely affected her purchasing power and resulted in notable investment losses. The plaintiff, through her lawyers, are seeking, among other things, a declaration that the Bank of Ghana has been grossly negligent in the management of the Ghana cedi through Dr. Ernest Addison. The action filed on March 17, 2025, is also asking the courts to rule that the exchange rate losses are enforceable against the Bank of Ghana and Dr. Ernest Addison. The applicant, who described herself as a private citizen in her writ, stated that the central bank is mandated by law to ensure the stabilization of the value of the cedi. It was her case that the cedi to dollar exchange rate was 4.26 Ghana cedis to $1 when Dr. Addison took office in 2017. However, the exchange rate as at February 3, 2025 stood at 15.49 Ghana cedis to $1 when Dr. Ernest Addison proceeded on terminal leave. Again, the plaintiff observed that the currency has become one of the worst performing currencies in the world under the former BOG boss. This depreciation, she said, caused her to suffer exchange rate losses, erosion of purchasing power, and remarkable investment capital losses. Dr. Addison, she believes, failed to exercise care in his management of the currency. In other business news this evening, consumers of electricity and water are expected to pay more for their consumption in the first and second quarters of the year 2025. This follows a meeting being undertaken by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, to discuss the proposed percentage increase. According to information available, the proposed percentages are under consideration are 27% and 9.5% for electricity and water, respectively. Well, that's all the business news we've got for you this evening. Stay with us. Sport news comes up shortly. Welcome back to News Tonight. Joel has joined us with the sports news. Joel, what's up for sports?
Exactly, we've got a lot for sports today. The Ghana Olympic Committee President Ben Mensah is outgoing, so there are a few people who are vying, just two people. And today we were privileged to have one on the game. So he spoke a lot about what he also has if he's given the nod to be the president. So a lot here on the sports segment. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's start with aspiring Ghana Olympic Committee President Mike Aggrey. He's unveiled his vision to support retired athletes, ensuring they are not left out struggling after their sports careers. Speaking in an exclusive interview on The Game, Aggrey emphasized the importance of proper mentoring and post-retirement planning for sportsmen and women.
When you discover talent, it is not just a case of go and run and win and let's take the laurels away and that's it. You need to mentor them from the beginning that, look, this is a career that is usually short-lived. Maybe up to your mid-30s. If you're lucky, you can go to your late 30s and so on and so forth. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to take you through your career all the way to the end. But when you're done, we need to be sure that you are secured going forward. So the mentoring process will include making sure that there is a fallback position for them, both financially and employment-wise. So it's whether it is business, whether it is employment or whatever, they need to have a talent other than the one for which they were chosen to be in the national team or whatever, so that there will be life after sports. It's very, very important, and we are going to make sure. I believe that recently we heard that Parliament was advocating for a special pension fund or whatever for them. I don't think that it should be peculiar to parliamentarians alone.
All right, so over the years, Ghana has struggled with organizing proper pre-Olympic camping for its athletes. This changed 4 years ago when the Ghana Olympic Committee introduced a 2-week pre-Olympic camp ahead of Tokyo Games, a practice that was continued for the Paris Games last year. According to Mike Aggrey, during his tenure, his team is committed to ensuring that the Olympic team selection process is open to all eligible Ghanaian athletes.
I'm going to take a step further. Okay. We're going to do a local camping. We will camp. You see, so first of all, we're going to identify what we call the long list. Everybody who we believe is eligible will be invited to Team Ghana. Awesome. We will do a local camping and then start to monitor their progress and so on and so forth. Even those who are based outside will be invited to come and camp. I don't see why we can invite Pate and Kudos to come and play football here from the EPL, and yet we cannot invite our American stars or anybody else who's abroad to come and train here. Yeah. We should bring them down, and because first of all, camping together promotes team bonding. Yeah. And if you don't bond, one of the failures in my view in Tokyo, for instance, was that
right, before we wrap up, let's just bring you a few of the fixtures in the Ghana Premier League games to be played over the weekend. Just gone by, it was Midiama who won their game at the TNA Park by 2-0 over Dreams FC. But tomorrow we've got games coming up. Accra Lions will be squaring it off with Baseke. Holy Stars at the Accra Sports Stadium. That's the game coming up tomorrow for you in the Ghana Premier League games coming up tomorrow live. And also we've got other fixtures for you in the Ghana Premier League that is coming up later on Sunday. But I'll be bringing you all the updates later tomorrow on the news. That's it for sports here on News Tonight. Over to you, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Joel, for the sports segment. There we've got international news next. Ukraine's European allies have pledged 21 billion euros in a new tranche of military support for Kiev in what they described as a critical year for the war. More than half of this, 11 billion euros, is aid over 4 years, and it's coming from Germany. British Defence Minister John Healey said the pledges